The end of Loki changed the entire landscape of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The introduction of He Who Remains is as big a reveal as Thanos was, no doubt, but while we met the character that Jonathan Majors was playing, despite having an hour with the head of the TVA, we really didn't get properly introduced. We had clues from the beginning, like A23, Ravonna Renslayer being involved in the TVA to begin with, but even in the last episode, he didn't give his name or names. This week, we're looking at Immortus, Rama-Tut, the immortal master of time, Kang the Conqueror. I'm Dan Umpton, and this is the Doomcast. I like Marvel movies, fine, but a weird latent side effect of them is that for some reason, the guys that kicked my ass in high school are now the same ones coming up to me and being like, "Oh, so who exactly is Kang the Conqueror, Dan?" I'll tell you, but honestly, these are not words that should have ever passed your lips in this timeline. Kang the Conqueror is one of the Avengers' greatest enemies, with mysterious origins, and while there's clearly multiple variants in the MCU, in Marvel, the most common version is a time traveler named Nathaniel Richards from the 31st century, distantly related to the bloodlines of both Reed Richards and Doctor Doom. Yes. One of the most enduringly popular things about Kang the Conqueror is that there's so much mystery to him. He's lived so many lives. Can he die? Yes, he's very good at it, despite being nearly impossible to kill, though many have tried. He may not even be Nathaniel Richards anymore, if he ever was truly at all. And as confusing as that is, he's been a ton of people, like I said, multiple versions of Kang, also Rama-Tut, Immortus, Iron Lad, and well, hang on, most of these have versions that have one time or the other been at odds with one another too. His first publication appearance was as Rama-Tut, having absconded with the remnants of Doctor Doom's future time machine and went back to rule the Egyptians. And in a retcon, he used N'Saba-Nur, Apocalypse, as his heir. As Kang, he showed up to battle the Avengers, later impersonated Captain America, and tried to marry Mantis because she was going to give birth to the Cosmic Messiah. Now, a future version of himself, probably the closest thing to what we saw in the MCU, was Immortus, a relatively good guy entrusted by a race of beings that monitors time, that had battled most of his past selves. Then, of course, there's Iron Lad, a younger version of Kang before he becomes Kang, who has kind of a causal loop, because he stole his future self's time armor and then went back to form the Young Avengers. That armor later bonded with a Vision, giving him additional advanced powers, including all of the future Kang's memories. That feels like it's getting confusing. It is, because he's one of those characters who's an incredible villain, mostly because he's able to be written and rewritten over and over again, but a few things make him an incredible villain to the Avengers, and that are consistent with what we already saw in Loki. First among them, incredibly advanced technology. Virtually nothing harms them unless they want to. He's rarely defeated or bested by anything short of his own arrogance or miscalculation, or as we saw in Loki, his inability to predict what's going to happen next. And of course, that second great power also plays into that same weakness, because he's a time traveler with foreknowledge of both the past and future and multiple possible timelines. At that, he's capable of making such predictions, usually fairly accurately, in rare circumstances. One of the huge things that Loki gets right is that there's many alternate versions of Kang, more than one group of Kangs dedicated to destroying all other versions of Kang, including eventually all of their own members. And if there's one thing that Kang loves, it's kidnapping. Loves it. Way more than time travel, way more than even the color purple. Kidnapping is his favorite activity next to changing his identities and failing to defeat the Avengers, or laughing maniacally. He's kidnapped the Fantastic Four, future versions of himself, past versions of himself, the Vision, past versions of himself, past versions of Ravonna Renslayer, who he fell in love with, Mantis, the Children of Apocalypse, the Son of Black Bolt, and Medusa, and it resulted in some major ass-kickination every single time, but he keeps coming back. And of course, consistent with my fandoms, one of my favorite Kang mysteries is one that's been around almost as long as he has, that's never actually been resolved. When Kang met Doctor Doom briefly after coming to the 20th century for the first time, he recognized Doctor Doom as a past version of himself, and later during Secret Wars, the first one from the 1980s, not the 2015, Doom acknowledged Kang as his future Earth counterpart. Is Kang a future version of Doom? Or merely a descendant of the Lord of Latveria? Or is Doom actually a past version of Kang? Or future version of Kang? Or was this some flame-boasting bullshit just spouted in a moment of improvisation by a self-aggrandized personality? Or did he just mean Kang was his equal, just a person that he respects that far in the future? In Chris Cantwell's Doctor Doom series, the two meet and expand this mystery even further. Amid a friendly ribbing in the guise of barbed threats to one another, the two question if either is the other's father, potentially, if Kang is potentially Reed Richards' true parent, and which one is destined to kill the other. But almost surely a conflict in the MCU with Kang and Doctor Doom is sure to occur, especially given the fact that a Fantastic Four movie is forthcoming, and that conflict will almost certainly be explosive. Regardless, there's very few mysteries like this left in Marvel, and few beings are quite as powerful, quite as intimidating as Kang, who has rightfully earned the name Conqueror. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been the Doomcast. We'll see you again next week.